Hey everyone, it's Chris here from All Flip No Flop. Today I'm going to take you guys with me on my thrift routes throughout the week. We'll hit several thrift stores, pick up a bunch of stuff. Some of the stuff sold already. I'll show you guys what that sold for. Some of the nicer stuff, I'll tell you guys what I hope to get out of it. And if you stick around till the end, I'll tell y'all all about this nice Lee short coat I picked up today. So let's take a ride. So we are on our way to the auction. It's Sunday. Just got hit with a pretty big snowstorm. It's icy out. It's snowy out. We're cruising through town and getting ready to pull up at the local auction. I typically go see these guys every week. You know, that's either on a Saturday or a Sunday. Nice people, you know, and I usually end up coming away with something good. You know, I try my best to train my eye and do my homework and front load all of the information I possibly can to be able to find the sneaky stuff that not everybody is out hunting for. So here we are walking through the auction, checking out some of the paintings and whatnot. Some of this vintage Christmas stuff can be big money, not necessarily my niche, but you know, I've seen some of it go for some big money. Unfortunately, at this auction, we're out in farm country, so a lot of the ladies that come out here like to decorate and whatnot. So you know, a lot of the vintage holiday decorations and things like that go for more than what I'm willing to pay. Here we have a Revere Ware full copper tea kettle. Comps on that weren't great, you know, 20 or 30 bucks, I think. So I passed on that. Some Revere Ware I do really well with, especially the double ring. Double ring is the older line. I think they quit doing that in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Just saw a Dooney and Burke purse. I've also done very well with Dooney. That one is not a great one. This is what actually brought me to the auction. What I was hoping to grab were some of those the carved wooden duck decoys. Those can do extremely well. We're just cruising and perusing. Here we go. That cookie jar back there I was actually interested in, but once again it went for a little more than what I was willing to pay. Fringe, with festival season quickly approaching, a lot of that leather fringe is going to sell quickly. I've sold several pieces already in the last week or so, actually. Some Mason's Bibles, really cool, actually, very interesting. I tried to pick those up. Once again, you know, I kind of set a cap. I'll do a little research if I see something that's interesting to me. This is a Victorian era clock. I ended up getting that for just a couple bucks. Whether it worked or not, it was cool. But these Mason's Bibles, you know, I told myself I'd pay. Some of them were selling for 100, 150 bucks a pop. I told myself that I would pay $25 max on either one of them. One of them was actually more valuable than the other. And I got outbid, you know, which all's fair, right? It is the auction. And I don't know if I would have got rid of that or not. It's just the illustrations were just highly interesting. Here I'm at the local thrift, cruising the racks. Find this old Lacoste in a pink. It's a good size. I don't see any stains or anything like that. So we are going to pick it up. Back to cruising the rack. No. And I do live in a rural farm community, so I find some really cool vintage workwear and western wear on a pretty regular basis. So I'm grateful for that. I am well positioned for some niches of vintage clothing, so it works out in my favor. Y2K, the word on the street is that the old Hollister, Abercrombie's been coming back, but we're going to try our hand at some of this Y2K stuff. I think I ended up getting that A.E. Henley there. Polo, not basic polo. I pick up a lot of Ralph, I pass on a lot of the basic stuff. This is Y2K, Timberland. Timberland's bouncing back pretty heavily, so I copped that. Cruising through. Got some t-shirts here. Looking to see if it's single stitch. It is not. Checking the tag. Passing. I am passing on, some solid bread and butter stuff. But I feel like I've got my fair share of just bread and butter. So I'm out looking for hopefully some bangers, but aren't we all? I still am picking up some bread and butter, just not trying to pass on a lot of the stuff that is oversaturated on eBay. So cruising through the t-shirts. It's a lot of no's and no's and no's. Christmas is over. Otherwise, I may have put that on Depop. And we're done there. Cruising the toys. I don't do a lot of toys. I have found some good ones in these bags on the wall. Checking the cart that is currently being stocked out of. The folks here know me. They don't mind. I make sure and, respectfully ask before I go digging through what they're stocking. Hey, can I check it out? They already know what I do, what I'm there for, what I'm about. I spend quite a bit of money in this thrift store every week. I comped these Brita filters. Not worth my time, really. A lot of times, definitely check things like that are new in box, because sometimes you will be surprised. Printer toner is one thing that springs to mind. I've done extremely well on sealed and unsealed printer toner, but typically I stay away from the generic stuff. It's got to be branded HP or Brother or whatnot. Cruising through, they don't really have a lot of electronics in this thrift. I pick up a lot of clothes here, and I'll get some furniture from time to time, like some mid-century stuff, which is something that I am venturing out into more. Here we got some Hokas. Oh yeah, they do really well on shoes here too. All shoes are $2. Some Corrals, I believe, is the brand. Snakeskin. These are Ariat slip-ons with an Aztec. These are Merrell's slip-ons, like comfort shoes. Have like ice grip on the bottom. Those are the Ariat slip-ons. And the Aztec, I ended up giving those to my fiance. This is cool. Old Western vest. It's sold pretty quickly. A lot of that vintage Western wear, panhandle slim, things that H-bar C, things like that, you will do well on. This is Anthropology. I believe I pick up a lot of Anthropology and Free People at this thrift store. Somebody must have dropped off a literal ton of this stuff, because every time I come in, they have more stocked and they put a reasonable price on it. So, it leaves me a little meat on the bone, and I'm grateful for that. This one was new with tags. And, they have several of the Anthropology lines. I saw this cash register had a friend a few days ago, and I picked that up and it sold quickly. I left the other one behind. This is labeled Salad Master. It is not a Salad Master. It is another brand that I just showed a comp, and it is actually better than the Salad Master. Got some Carolina work boots. Those will probably do well. These Ariat jeans I ended up keeping for myself. They fit pretty well, and I'm always in need of work jeans being out on the farm. Some made in USA Wranglers in a big size, big and tall, sometimes commands a premium. BK, these are the silvers. Got a little Y2K jam there. These should be the BKEs, yeah. Buckle jeans. Old starter K-State. I pick up a lot of KU and K-State gear. I typically only pick up the vintage stuff. Old St. John's Bay. Old Van Court. Acrylic flannel shirt. And a low-key Browning, shadow print pullover sweatshirt fleece. Cruising through. I pick up some, typically the vintage stuff, like agriculture type clothing and marketing and things like that. Signs, whatever. Pioneer is a seed company. I was trying to figure out what golf course that is. It's stained up, so I left it. But some courses can do tremendously well, and some not so well, obviously, if they are embroidered on golf polos, or that was a Nike golf pullover windbreaker. If anybody knows, drop it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Thinking this is vintage K-State. It's not old enough, for me at least. This is another thrift, by the way, in the opposite direction from the house. So we are vintage military clothing. I have done extremely well on, so I'm always excited if I see something, Vietnam era or earlier. Sometimes the Cold War stuff, but I'm typically looking for 60s, 50s, 40s when it comes to military. Back on that, the Y2K kick, word on the street, Hurley, all that is coming back. So that was just an experiment. I don't expect to command any kind of serious money off of that, but we are conducting an experiment. Little Tonka toy car. I picked up these Cabbage Patch dolls. Normally Cabbage Patch dolls are a hard no for me, but these sold immediately. The 90s type clothing is what caused me to stop and look them up. They looked unique. They looked pretty cool. And it turned out that they were highly collectible. This is that AE shirt we looked at earlier. This is a Murano glass fish vase. It's an Italian, or it's attributed to Murano. There's no stamp. But we've kind of got a mid-century vibe going on in one of our living rooms. So that got added to the collection. This is that living room that we're working on. Kind of got the Herman Miller coffee table and the Foo Dog lamps. It's a painting by her sister. And that's our living room. Picked up that rug at an auction a while back. Here's some old KU gear. Dodger brand, made in USA. I'm thinking that the name might have been a player. I couldn't find a player by that name that played for KU in the last 20 or 30 years, so I'm not sure what that was. This is an antique store a few miles away from the house that they have some clothing in a separate room. It's kind of like an antique mall where they have separate vendors that rent space and sell their wares. Sometimes I will get lucky and find something cool in their clothing section. Anytime I'm passing through that particular town, I try and pop in if they're open. I know the owners, and they're very nice people. And we're checking the jeans. Man, low-key, I hope, every time I go in and get to looking through jeans that I'm going to find some buckle back, Levi's from the early 1900s that somebody decided to donate. I know it's crazy, but, one can hope. It's good to have aspirations and dreams, right? Cruising through some of the women's stuff. Checking out this leather jacket. It's kind of cool. Cruising. We see that looks outdoorsy and it looks insulated. It is down-filled. Vintage Orvis. Take a look at the price tag, and that's a pass. I kind of am moving through this stuff quickly because I was in here a week ago and their clothing inventory doesn't turn over super quickly. So I recognize a lot of this stuff is things that I've already looked at, recently. So we're just kind of moving. Some leather riding chaps and vest or like a combo. I've done well with riding gear, riding jackets, chaps, things like that. But it doesn't move super quick for me. Just it depends on the brand and what it is, I suppose. Got the uranium glass, which is always cool. I like their little display there. Crocs, old Red Wing Crocs with that thing. Highly collectible. I don't know if you guys ever run across Red Wing Crocs out there. There's an auction coming up in the next week or so that is basically dedicated to Red Wing. This person was a huge Red Wing collector. Cruising through the same little antique mall, looking at some different vendors. Kind of coming up dry today. Nothing. And I see these little bendy Indians. I comped them on eBay. Some of them are selling for like $5 to $9 a piece individually. I think there's like 30 something of them in there. And it has the original box. For $25, I picked it up and listed it at like 100 and some change, I think. I got this for my grandmother. She loves Yadro. So I'm going to send that to her. Back to the Y2K kid. Got a little Abercrombie. Got some vintage Gap, like safari shirts, heavy cotton twill. I got 2 of them, short sleeve button ups. I got a lot of those together. Old vintage thermal Wrights, made in USA, of course, and unstretched. It felt like it was brand new. Old made in USA red cap workwear. I do well on that, and like made in USA Dickies work shirts, just basic bread and butter. Cool KU Jayhawks Final Four shirt from 91. Very 90s graphics, subject matter. Very cool. I listed that kind of high, I think like $70. See how it does on the old hefty TJs. Single stitch, of course. Got this Columbia Mizzou jacket, the Missouri Tigers. It's like a windbreaker. So we picked that up. Got it listed. This cool Columbia jacket, like the Omnitech, insulated, cool kind of colors, blue and yellow. We got these Jordan 5, I think they're the alternate Bel Airs. If you can't tell by the confetti on the inside, you know, it screams Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So those are cool. These are some old Nike ACG hiking boots from the 90s. These are pretty, you know, there's some collectors out there, this old ACG stuff, and it was just built to last. Old Kansas City Royals World Series champions hat on the Anco tag from 85, year I was born. Got this grid laser. It's a Sports Specialties Green Bay Packers hat from the 90s. Some Sports Specialties can do phenomenal. This one's kind of mid. I'm hoping to get like 60, 70 bucks out of the hat, and that's if I'm lucky. Finally, we got this Lee chore coat. It is near dead stock. Talon zippers, sanforized, made in the USA, all the things. Beautiful, beautiful coat. The quilted insulation, the lining on the inside was immaculate, and this thing had hardly been worn. It's like an XL, 2XL, no size tag, but based on measurements, that's what I listed it as. And within a day, I got an offer from Japan. I think I listed it originally at like $629, and it sold for this. If you guys have made it this far, I appreciate it. And if you find this video or have found this video valuable whatsoever, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe, leave me a comment. All that helps the algorithm get my content in front of more people. So thank you guys for joining me. Y'all have a great one.